The story of David and Goliath is one of the most well-known narratives in human history. It is a tale of faith overcoming fear, the weak defeating the strong, and the triumph of divine power over human arrogance. But what if there was more to the story than what is often told? What if Goliath was not the only giant? What if the giants in the Bible were more than just men, but remnants of an ancient and mysterious lineage? In this video, we will explore the legendary battle between David and Goliath, the hidden history of biblical giants, and the controversial theories about their origins. Stay with us, because what you are about to hear may change the way you understand this ancient biblical account. Goliath was not just a soldier, he was the Philistine army's greatest warrior, a champion who had never been defeated. He was bred for war, trained to be a fearsome adversary, and armed with weapons that made him almost unstoppable. According to the biblical account in 1 Samuel 17:4, Goliath was over 9 feet tall. He towered over the Israelite soldiers, making him an imposing presence on the battlefield. He wore a full suit of armor, which included a bronze helmet, a coat of scale armor weighing approximately 125 pounds, bronze greaves to protect his legs, and a bronze javelin slung between his shoulders. His spear was described as being as thick as a weaver's beam, with a spearhead alone weighing 15 pounds. But perhaps the most intimidating aspect of Goliath was not just his sheer size and weaponry, but his confidence. For 40 days, he stood before the Israelite army, mocking them, taunting them, and challenging them to send a warrior to face him in single combat. His words were not just insults, they were psychological warfare. The Philistines did not need to fight a full-scale battle if their champion could win a one-on-one duel. If an Israelite could defeat Goliath, the Philistines would submit as servants. But if Goliath won, Israel would be enslaved. None of the Israelites dared to face him. Even King Saul, the tallest man among them, and an experienced warrior himself, refused to step forward. The entire army trembled in fear. It seemed as though the fate of Israel was sealed. Then, an unexpected challenger arrived. David was not a soldier. He was a young shepherd from Bethlehem, the youngest of 8 brothers. His life was spent tending sheep, not fighting battles. One day, his father Jesse sent him to the battlefield with food for his older brothers, who were serving in Saul's army. He was only meant to deliver supplies and bring back news. But when he arrived, he saw something that enraged him. Goliath stood in the valley, once again mocking the Israelite army and cursing the God of Israel. The soldiers cowered in fear, unwilling to face him. David, however, was furious. He asked, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" 1 Samuel 17:26. To the other soldiers, Goliath was an unbeatable warrior. To David, he was just a man who had dared to insult God. When King Saul heard of David's boldness, he called for him. But when David declared that he would fight Goliath, Saul was taken aback. David was young, untrained, and unarmored. He had never fought in a war, while Goliath had been a warrior since his youth. Saul told David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are only a youth, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David responded, "Your servant has been tending his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went out after it, struck it, and rescued the lamb from its mouth. And when it rose against me, I seized it by its beard, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. 1 Samuel 17:34-36. David's confidence was not in his own strength, but in the power of God. Saul finally agreed to let him fight, offering him his own royal armor. But when David tried to walk in it, he found that it was too heavy and unfamiliar. He removed it and instead took what he knew best, a shepherd's staff, 5 smooth stones from a stream, and his sling. The battle was about to begin. As David approached the battlefield, Goliath looked him over and laughed. "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" he mocked. He cursed David and declared that he would kill him and feed his body to the birds and wild animals. But David was not afraid. He stood firm and responded, "You come to me with a sword, a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands. I will strike you down and cut off your head, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel." 1 Samuel 17:45-46. Goliath charged at David. David ran toward him, reached into his pouch, took out a stone, and slung it with all his might. The stone struck Goliath in the forehead. The mighty Philistine, the warrior who had terrified an entire army, fell to the ground, face down. David ran forward, took Goliath's own sword, and cut off his head. The Philistine army, seeing that their champion was dead, turned and fled. The Israelites pursued them, claiming victory. David, the shepherd boy, had defeated the greatest warrior of his time. The story of Goliath is fascinating, but what if he was not the only giant of his kind? Throughout the Bible, giants are mentioned multiple times. They are not just described as large individuals, but as entire clans of massive warriors. Some scholars believe these giants were remnants of an ancient race, while others suggest a more supernatural origin. Goliath's brothers and other giant warriors. The Bible mentions that Goliath had at least 4 brothers, all of whom were also warriors of great size and strength. These giants were associated with the Philistines and were likely among the fiercest fighters of their time. First, Ishbi-benob, a warrior who attempted to kill King David but was slain by one of David's men. Second, Saph, or Saph, another Philistine giant who was defeated in battle. Third, Lami, Goliath's brother, known for wielding a massive spear similar to that of Goliath. 4. An unnamed giant, described as having 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. 1 Chronicles 26. These warriors were not just tall. They were heavily armed and considered elite fighters. But were they simply genetically large humans, or was there something more to their origins? The connection to the Nephilim. Were giants descendants of fallen angels? One of the most controversial theories about biblical giants is their possible connection to the Nephilim, a group mentioned in Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. These were the mighty men of old, men of renown. Many scholars debate what this passage means. There are 3 main interpretations. The first one is the fallen angel theory. Some believe the sons of God were fallen angels who took human wives and produced the Nephilim, a hybrid race of supernaturally strong beings. This idea is supported by the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text, which claims that fallen angels taught humans forbidden knowledge, and that their offspring were giants. The second one is the line of Seth theory. Others argue that the sons of God were simply the descendants of Seth, Adam's son, who intermarried with the sinful descendants of Cain. This theory suggests the Nephilim were merely wicked, powerful rulers rather than actual giants. Finally, the third one, the ancient warrior theory. Another view is that the Nephilim were simply a race of massive warriors, unrelated to supernatural beings, but remembered as larger-than-life figures due to their strength and dominance in battle. No matter the interpretation, the Bible makes it clear that these giants caused destruction and were often seen as enemies of God's people. The Rephaim, Anakim, and other ancient giants. The Nephilim are not the only giants mentioned in the Bible. Other groups of large warriors existed in the Old Testament. The Rephaim, a race of giants that inhabited the land of Canaan and Bashan. King Og of Bashan, described in Deuteronomy 3:11, had a bed over 13 feet long, suggesting his enormous size. The Anakim, giants encountered by the Israelite spies when they scouted the Promised Land. Numbers 13:33 states, "We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." The Zamzummim, another race of giants mentioned in Deuteronomy 2:20, who were defeated before the Israelites entered the Promised Land. Could these giants have been the last remnants of an ancient race? Were they genetically different from regular humans? Or were they simply larger-than-average warriors whose legends grew over time? The possible existence of giants after the flood. One of the biggest mysteries about biblical giants is how they could have existed after the Great Flood. Genesis 6:4 states that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. But if the flood wiped out all humanity except Noah's family, how did giants continue to appear in later generations? There are a few possible explanations. 1. A second invasion of fallen angels. Some believe that after the flood, another group of fallen angels came down and repeated the events of Genesis 6. 2. Nephilim DNA in Noah's family. Others suggest that one of Noah's sons or daughters-in-law carried Nephilim genetics, which later manifested in future generations. 3. Giants were simply normal humans with unique genetics. Another possibility is that these groups were simply large humans with a genetic predisposition for gigantism, similar to modern-day conditions like acromegaly. Regardless of their origins, one thing is clear. These giants were powerful, and yet time and time again, they fell before the armies of Israel. The story of David and Goliath is more than just a historical battle. It carries deep spiritual lessons that are still relevant today. 1. Giants are more than just physical. They represent life's greatest challenges. In life, we all face giants. These giants may not be literal warriors, but they take the form of fear, doubt, hardship, and overwhelming obstacles. Just like the Israelites were terrified of Goliath, we sometimes feel paralyzed by the challenges ahead of us. But David's story teaches us that no matter how big the obstacle, faith is greater. 2. Victory comes not by strength, but by faith. David did not defeat Goliath because he was stronger or more experienced. He won because he trusted in God's power rather than his own abilities. When Goliath mocked him, David did not respond with fear, but with faith, declaring, "The battle is the Lord's." 1 Samuel 17:47. This teaches us that when we rely on God rather than our own strength, we can overcome even the most impossible situations. Third, God uses the unexpected to accomplish His will. David was not a warrior, he was a shepherd. He was young, untrained, and underestimated by everyone around him. But God chose him to defeat Goliath. This pattern is seen throughout the Bible. God often uses the weak and unlikely to accomplish great things. He chose Moses, a man who was slow of speech, to lead Israel out of Egypt. He chose Gideon, a fearful man, to defeat the Midianites with just 300 soldiers. And he chose David, a boy with a sling, to defeat the mightiest warrior of his time. If God could use David, He can use you, no matter how small or unqualified you may feel. 4. Even the mightiest giants must fall. Throughout the Bible, giants symbolize forces that seem unbeatable, yet they always fall. Goliath was slain by David. The Rephaim were driven out of their land. The Anakim were conquered. The Nephilim, no matter their origin, were ultimately defeated. No enemy is greater than God. No struggle is bigger than His power. 5. The battle is not ours to fight alone. David understood something that many of us forget. He did not fight alone. He fought with God on his side. Too often we try to face our battles by ourselves. We think we have to be strong enough, smart enough, or capable enough. But the truth is, we are never alone. When we put our trust in God, we step into a battle that He has already won.